Some planes look like they were designed by artists, not engineers. With graceful lines, futuristic curves, and jaw-dropping profiles, they promised greatness. But once they took to the skies, things got ugly. From unstable cockpits to engines that refused to cooperate, these vintage aircraft became cautionary tales. Today, we're diving into 10 vintage planes that looked like pure art, but flew like total nightmares. Starting our countdown at number 10, we've got the stunning Northrop XP-79B flying ram.
Number 10, Northrop XP-79B flying ram.
Born in the United States during World War II, this rocket-powered interceptor was designed to literally ram enemy bombers out of the sky. And visually, it was pure science fiction. The XP-79B featured a sleek, wing-shaped fuselage with the pilot lying prone in a reinforced cockpit, giving it an otherworldly profile that looked decades ahead of its 1945 debut. Jack Northrop envisioned this flying wing as the ultimate interceptor, a magnesium-bodied missile that could slice through enemy formations at incredible speeds. The design was so futuristic that it seemed pulled from a comic book, with its razor-sharp leading edges and minimal vertical surfaces creating an almost alien silhouette. But the XP-79B's beauty was deceiving. During its first and only powered flight on September 12, 1945, test pilot Harry Crosby lost control during a routine maneuver. The aircraft entered an unrecoverable spin and crashed, killing Crosby instantly. The prone pilot position, while aerodynamically efficient, made it nearly impossible to escape in an emergency. The rocket engines were unreliable, the controls were hypersensitive, and the aircraft's radical design created unpredictable flight characteristics that even experienced test pilots couldn't master. The flying ram remains a haunting reminder that innovation without proven engineering can be deadly. Its striking appearance still captivates aviation enthusiasts, but it stands as our first example of how artistic beauty in aircraft design can mask fatal flaws. At number 9, we encounter the vertical marvel known as the Convair XFY-1 Pogo.
Number 9, Convair XFY-1 Pogo.
This American experimental fighter from the early 1950s was designed to take off and land vertically like a helicopter, but fight like a conventional aircraft. The Pogo's sleek, dart-like fuselage and enormous contra-rotating propellers gave it an elegant, almost sculptural quality. Sitting on its tail with landing gear that resembled a tripod, it looked like a piece of modern art ready to defy gravity. The US Navy commissioned Convair to solve the problem of operating high-performance fighters from small ships without catapults or arresting gear. The XFY-1's design was breathtaking, a perfect marriage of form and function that promised to revolutionize naval aviation. Its polished aluminum skin and graceful proportions made it a photographer's dream. However, the Pogo was a pilot's nightmare. Taking off vertically required extraordinary skill, as pilots had to look over their shoulders through mirrors to see where they were going. The transition from vertical to horizontal flight was treacherous, and landing was even worse. Pilots essentially had to back the aircraft onto the ground while controlling a massive torque-heavy propeller. Test pilot James "Skeets" Coleman described the experience as like trying to balance a pencil on your finger while someone throws rocks at you. The program was cancelled after just a handful of flights. While the Pogo proved vertical flight was possible, it also demonstrated that some beautiful concepts are simply too dangerous for practical use. Today, it remains an icon of 1950s optimism and engineering ambition. Number 8 brings us the utterly unique Vought V173 flying Pancake.
Number 8, Vought V173 flying Pancake.
Developed in the United States during the early 1940s, this experimental aircraft looked like nothing that had ever taken to the skies. Its circular wing design created a disc-shaped profile that seemed more like a UFO than a conventional airplane. The V-173's smooth pancake flat fuselage and twin propellers mounted on the wingtips gave it an almost mystical appearance that captured the imagination of everyone who saw it. Charles Zimmerman's radical design promised incredible versatility. The flying Pancake was supposed to take off and land in impossibly short distances while maintaining excellent high-speed performance. The circular wing would theoretically eliminate wingtip vortices and provide exceptional lift at low speeds. Visually, it was revolutionary, appearing more like a piece of abstract art than a military aircraft. But the V-173's exotic looks came with equally exotic problems. The aircraft vibrated so violently that pilots could barely read their instruments. The twin propellers created tremendous noise and turbulence, making communication nearly impossible. Test pilot Boone Guyton reported that flying the Pancake was like riding a paint mixer through a thunderstorm. The gear-driven propeller system was so complex and unreliable that mechanics spent more time fixing it than flying it. While the V-173 eventually achieved stable flight and proved some of Zimmerman's theories, it never overcame its fundamental mechanical issues. The program was abandoned as jet technology made propeller-driven aircraft obsolete. Today, the flying Pancake remains one of aviation's most distinctive designs, beautiful in its strangeness, but ultimately impractical. Landing at number 7, we have Germany's desperate masterpiece, the Heinkel He 162 Volksjäger.
Number 7. Heinkel He 162 Volksjäger.
Born from Nazi Germany's dire need for fighters in late 1944, the He 162 was designed to be flown by hastily trained pilots against Allied bombers. Despite its rushed development, the Volksjäger possessed an undeniable elegance. Its swept-wing design, mounted jet engine, and sleek wooden fuselage created a profile that looked decades ahead of its time. The aircraft's clean lines and minimal surface details gave it an almost artistic simplicity. Ernst Heinkel's team created what appeared to be the perfect lightweight jet fighter. The He 162's graceful proportions and modern aesthetic made it look like the future of aviation, a sleek predator that could outrun any Allied fighter. Its distinctive top-mounted engine and V-tail gave it a unique silhouette that photographers and aviation artists still celebrate today. However, the Volksjäger's beauty masked serious structural and handling problems. The aircraft was viciously unstable, with a tendency to snap into unrecoverable spins without warning. The wooden construction, necessitated by material shortages, often came apart in flight. Test pilot Gotthard Peter was killed when his He 162's wings separated during a demonstration flight in front of Nazi officials. The ejection seat was poorly designed, and pilots who survived crashes often reported that the aircraft felt like it was actively trying to kill them. More. Her 162 pilots died in training accidents than in combat. The program produced nearly 300 aircraft, but most never saw action. The Volksjäger remains a stunning example of how desperate circumstances can produce beautiful but deadly designs. At number 6, we're examining another vertical takeoff dream, the Lockheed XFV-1 Salmon.
Number 6. Lockheed XFV-1 Salmon.
This 1950s American experimental fighter was designed to take off like a rocket and fight like a jet. The XFV-1 looked absolutely stunning. A polished silver dart with massive contra-rotating propellers that made it appear straight out of science fiction. Standing on its tail, it had the grace of a modern sculpture. Lockheed promised the Navy the perfect vertical fighter that could operate from any ship. The Salmon's sleek lines and futuristic profile made it look unstoppable, like something from a Flash Gordon movie. But the XFV-1 was a control nightmare. Test pilots could barely manage vertical takeoffs and landing vertically. Nearly impossible. The test pilot it was named after never once successfully landed it vertically. The aircraft was so unstable that most flights had to use conventional runways, defeating the entire purpose. The program died quickly once the Navy realized this future fighter couldn't do what it was built for. The Salmon remains a gorgeous reminder that looking like the future doesn't mean you can fly like it. Reaching the halfway point at number 5, we encounter the massive Bell YFM-1 Airacuda.
Number 5. Bell YFM-1 Airacuda.
This late 1930s American heavy fighter looked like a flying battleship. The Airacuda featured twin booms, a central fuselage, and cannons mounted in the engine nacelles with their own gunners. It was massive, menacing, and beautiful in a brutalist way, like a piece of military architecture that someone taught to fly. Bell designed the YFM-1 to be the ultimate bomber-destroyer, capable of patrolling America's coasts and blasting enemy formations out of the sky. Its imposing size and heavy guns made it look unstoppable, like a flying fortress that could take on anything. But the Airacuda was a death trap. The engines were too weak for the massive airframe, making it sluggish and prone to engine failures. When one engine quit, the plane became nearly uncontrollable. Worst of all, the forward gunner positions were suicide seats. If gunners had to bail out, they'd be chopped up by the propellers. Only 13 were built before the program was scrapped. The Airacuda remains a perfect example of an aircraft that looked intimidating but was more dangerous to its own crew than the enemy. At number 4, we have Italy's magnificent folly, the Caproni Ca-60 Noviplano.
Number 4. Caproni Ca-60 Noviplano.
Built in 1921, this enormous flying boat was designed to carry 100 passengers across the Atlantic in luxury. The Noviplano featured 9 wings arranged in 3 triplane configurations, creating a structure that looked more like a floating cathedral than an airplane. Its massive size and intricate wing arrangement gave it an almost architectural beauty, with dozens of struts and wires creating geometric patterns that were genuinely artistic. Count Gianni Caproni envisioned the Ca-60 as the future of passenger aviation, a flying hotel that would make transatlantic travel comfortable and routine. The aircraft's imposing presence and complex engineering impressed everyone who saw it. With its boat-like hull and towering wing structure, it represented the height of early aviation ambition, but the Noviplano was an aerodynamic disaster. On its second test flight, March 4th, 1921, the massive aircraft became airborne briefly before crashing into Lake Maggiore, breaking apart on impact. Test pilot Federico Semprini barely escaped with his life. The aircraft was simply too heavy and structurally complex to fly safely. The multiple wing levels created tremendous drag and interference, while the massive weight overwhelmed the relatively weak engines. Taking the bronze medal at number 3, we have Germany's asymmetric marvel, the Blohm Voss BV 141.
Number 3. Blohm Voss BV 141.
Developed in Nazi Germany during the late 1930s, this reconnaissance aircraft featured one of the most unusual and striking designs ever created. The BV-141's asymmetric layout placed the cockpit and fuselage on one side and the engine and propeller on the other, connected by a wing that looked like it belonged in a modern art museum. Despite its bizarre configuration, the aircraft possessed an undeniable elegance and visual impact. Dr. Richard Vought's radical design promised excellent visibility for reconnaissance work while maintaining good performance characteristics. The BV-141's asymmetric beauty was both shocking and mesmerizing. It looked like no other aircraft before or since. The graceful curves of the observation nacelle contrasted beautifully with the powerful lines of the engine mount, creating a design that was both functional and artistic. However, the BV-141's unique appearance came with equally unique problems. The asymmetric design created constant directional instability, requiring pilots to apply constant rudder pressure to maintain straight flight. The aircraft was exhausting to fly on long missions, and the unusual center of gravity made emergency procedures extremely dangerous. Many test pilots reported that the BV-141 felt like it was constantly trying to turn itself inside out. Despite these problems, the aircraft actually entered limited production and saw some operational use. But its handling characteristics were so challenging that most pilots preferred conventional aircraft. The BV-141 remains one of aviation's most distinctive designs, proof that sometimes the most beautiful aircraft are also the most impractical. Racing into second place, we have Britain's tragic beauty, the de Havilland DH-108 Swallow.
Number 2, de Havilland DH-108 Swallow.
Built in the mid-1940s to explore swept-wing flight and break the sound barrier, the DH-108 was a work of aerodynamic art. Its tailless design, razor-sharp swept wings, and elegant fuselage created a profile that looked decades ahead of its time. The Swallow's clean lines and minimal surface details gave it an almost alien beauty that captured the imagination of the aviation world. De Havilland designed the DH-108 to pioneer high-speed flight and test the swept-wing theories that would define the jet age. The aircraft's stunning appearance suggested speed and futuristic capability. Its sleek profile and innovative design made it the star of air shows and aviation magazines, promising to unlock the secrets of supersonic flight. But the Swallow's beauty was deadly. All 3 aircraft built were destroyed in crashes that killed their pilots. The tailless design created vicious pitch instability at high speeds, causing the aircraft to break apart in flight. Test pilot Jeffrey de Havilland Jr., son of the company founder, was killed when his DH-108 disintegrated during a high-speed dive in 1946. The aircraft would suddenly pitch nose up with such violence that the wings would snap off. Despite its tragic record, the DH-108 provided valuable data that helped develop safer swept-wing aircraft. The program's 3 crashes taught designers crucial lessons about high-speed flight stability. The Swallow remains one of aviation's most beautiful and most dangerous aircraft, a reminder that cutting-edge design often comes with cutting-edge risks. Taking the number 1 spot, it's the most beautiful disaster ever built, the Northrop N1M Flying Wing.
Number 2, Northrop N1M Flying Wing.
Built in 1940 as Jack Northrop's first attempt at a practical flying wing design, the N1M was a masterpiece of aerodynamic sculpture. Its pure wing shape, with no fuselage or tail, created a profile that looked more like a piece of abstract art than an airplane. The aircraft's smooth, unbroken lines and graceful proportions made it the most visually striking aircraft of its era. Northrop believed that flying wings represented the future of aviation, aircraft so efficient and elegant that conventional designs would become obsolete. The N-1M's radical beauty captured the public imagination and suggested that airplanes could be reimagined from first principles. Its appearance in magazines and newsreels made it an icon of American innovation and forward thinking. However, the N1M was a pilot's nightmare. The aircraft was inherently unstable in all 3 axes, requiring constant control inputs to maintain level flight. Test pilots described flying it as wrestling with an invisible demon. The lack of a vertical tail made directional control nearly impossible in turbulence, and the aircraft would randomly pitch, roll, or yaw without warning. Moy Stevens, one of the test pilots, said flying the N1M was like trying to balance on a tightrope while juggling flaming torches. They looked like the future, but flew like a warning sign. These planes taught us that aviation beauty isn't everything, and sometimes it's a trap. Still, they remain iconic, not just for what they promised, but for what they couldn't deliver. Which one shocked you the most? Drop a comment, subscribe for more aviation history, and we'll see you in the next flight.